You're listening to the Untold American podcast, hosted by Dean and Jess. It's your go-to show for uncovering the fascinating, bizarre, and untold stories of American history and news. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode of the stories you won't hear anywhere else.
Welcome back to Untold American, where we dig into the stories they don't teach you in school. I'm Dean.
And I'm Jess.
Jess, today we're heading back to the early 1800s, a time when the United States was still kind of finding its footing, and we're going to explore the wild story of Aaron Burr.
Aaron Burr, a founding father of Vice President and ultimately a man shrouded in mystery and scandal.
It's amazing to think about how different things were back then. Today we've got, established borders, a strong federal government, pretty clear laws about what constitutes treason. But back in Burr's time, things were much more fluid, more untamed.
Absolutely. The Louisiana Purchase had just doubled the size of the nation, but so much of that territory was still uncharted and contested. There were tensions with Spain, whispers of secession, and a whole lot of ambitious individuals looking to make their mark on this new frontier.
And right in the middle of all this is Aaron Burr, a man who went from the heights of power to being branded a traitor by many. What I find so fascinating is what drove him to these alleged schemes after his duel with Hamilton.
Well, the duel itself was a turning point. It tarnished his reputation, ended his political career, and left him with a burning desire to reclaim his legacy, perhaps even surpass it.
And you have to admit, there's something almost Shakespearean about his fall from grace. He goes from being a heartbeat away from the presidency to being ostracized and accused of plotting against his own country.
It's a classic tale of ambition and intrigue, and what makes it even more captivating are the lingering questions about Burr's true intentions. Was he really plotting to create his own empire in the West, or was he simply a victim of circumstance and political maneuvering?
The sources we're looking at today offer a glimpse into this shadowy world of conspiracies and whispers of secession. For instance, one account talks about Burr gathering sundry persons for some kind of secret mission. What's fascinating to me is how much of this was just talk and how much was actual plotting.
Right. It's hard to separate fact from fiction, especially when you consider the political climate of the time. Remember, this was a period of intense partisanship with the Federalists and Jefferson's Democratic Republicans constantly vying for power.
So in this atmosphere of suspicion and political rivalry, Burr starts making his move. He sets his sights westward towards the vast expanse of the Louisiana Purchase. And this is where the story takes a truly wild turn.
Absolutely. Burr begins assembling a small army, stockpiling supplies, and even building a specially designed boat, which he called his Ark, no less for transporting men and equipment down the Ohio and Mississippi rivers.
This Ark is a great example of how this story blends some historical fact with almost mythical elements. It's like something straight out of a Western novel, this grand vessel sailing down the river, carrying the hopes and dreams of those seeking a new life, or perhaps something more sinister.
And the sources suggest that Burr was a master at playing on those hopes and dreams. He used the allure of the West, the promise of land and opportunity to recruit followers. One account mentions him offering thousands of acres from the Bastrop land tract to potential recruits.
It's like he was tapping into that same spirit of adventure and expansion that had driven the nation westward in the first place. But the question is, was he genuinely interested in settling these new lands, or was he using this as a cover for something more ambitious, more treasonous?
And that's where things get really murky, because while Burr was undoubtedly ambitious, even his closest associates seemed unsure of his ultimate goals.
Okay, so we've got this enigmatic figure, this grand vision of westward expansion, and a whole lot of unanswered questions. But Burr couldn't have pulled this off alone, right? He needed allies, people who could help him navigate the political landscape and provide the muscle to carry out his plans.
Enter General James Wilkinson, a figure who adds another layer of complexity to this already tangled web.
Wilkinson was no ordinary ally. He was the highest-ranking officer in the U.S. Army, a man with considerable influence and a knack for, let's just say, playing both sides.
Exactly. Wilkinson had a reputation for being shrewd, ambitious, and perhaps not entirely trustworthy. In fact, it later came to light that he was also a paid agent for the Spanish.
Wait a minute, so the guy who was supposed to be helping Burr was secretly working for a foreign power? That's bold.
It was a risky move, to say the least. But Wilkinson, like Burr, was a master of playing the long game of hedging his bets and keeping his options open.
So you've got these two ambitious figures, each with their own agendas, teaming up to, well, we're still not quite sure what. It's like a political thriller waiting to unfold.
Yeah.
So you got these two ambitious figures, each with their own agendas, teaming up to, Well, we're still not quite sure what it's like, a political thriller waiting to unfold.
And as we dig into the sources, it becomes clear that their partnership was anything but stable.
Yeah, it was a delicate balancing act, fueled by ambition, opportunity, and perhaps a healthy dose of distrust.
Wilkinson, as we know, was playing a dangerous game, serving as both Burr's confidant and a paid agent for the Spanish. You have to wonder how long he could keep up that charade.
Right.
Well, cracks began to appear when rumors of Burr's activities reached President Thomas Jefferson.
Could you imagine being Jefferson? Your former vice president is now suspected of plotting to carve up the nation you lead.
The sources paint a picture of a president caught between disbelief and growing concern.
Oh, wow. So much pressure.
And it's at this point that Wilkinson makes a fateful decision, one that would change the course of Burr's life and seal his fate in the eyes of many.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat here.
In a move that some call self-preservation and others call outright betrayal, Wilkinson sends a letter to Jefferson.
The infamous cipher letter, right?
Exactly, a coded message that supposedly exposed Burr's treasonous plans.
Now, I have to admit, reading through this letter, it's hard not to get caught up in the intrigue.
It's written in this cryptic language full of allusions and double meanings. You can almost feel the weight of history, the sense that something momentous is about to happen.
And for Burr, things were about to take a dramatic turn.
Jefferson, armed with Wilkinson's letter, wasted no time. He issued a proclamation denouncing Burr and ordering his arrest.
So the net was closing in.
Burr, realizing the gravity of his situation, found himself a fugitive on the run.
Imagine the pressure from a respected leader to a hunted man all within a matter of days.
He attempted to flee to New Orleans, hoping to escape the reach of the federal government.
And remember, this is 1807. We're talking about a perilous journey down the Mississippi, a landscape teeming with both danger and opportunity.
It's like something out of a classic adventure tale, the desperate flight, the unknown dangers, the constant fear of capture.
That's crazy.
But Burr's luck was running out.
Oh, no.
He was captured near present-day Mobile, Alabama, and brought back to Virginia to face the most serious charge in the young nation.
Treason. It's a word that carries so much weight even today.
And in Burr's time, it was a charge that could lead to the ultimate punishment.
Wow.
And so began the trial of the century, a legal showdown that would grip the nation and shape the very definition of treason in America.
It's like something out of a movie.
Presiding over this historic trial was none other than Chief Justice John Marshall, a towering figure in American law.
Talk about high stakes.
Yeah.
You've got Burr fighting for his life, accused of plotting against his own country. And on the other side, he's got Jefferson, determined to see justice served.
The atmosphere in that Richmond courtroom must have been electric.
And this wasn't just about Burr, was it?
No, this trial transcended the individual. It was about defining the limits of executive power, the delicate balance between individual liberty and national security.
It's amazing to think that these fundamental questions debated over 2 centuries ago still resonate with us today.
That's the power of history. It allows us to grapple with these timeless dilemmas and understand how they've shaped the world we live in.
I love that.
So as we delve into the details of the trial, we're not just uncovering the past, we're also gaining insights into the present.
So as we delve into the details of the trial, we're not just uncovering the past, we're also gaining insights into the present.
We're back with Untold American and the story of Aaron Burr.
A story that takes us back to a time when the nation's future was far from certain.
Jess, we've talked about Burr's fall from grace, his ambitious schemes in the West, and his dramatic trial for treason. But even though he was acquitted, the shadow of that accusation followed him for the rest of his life.
It's a reminder that in these sorts of cases, public perception often outweighs legal outcomes.
Yeah, he was basically a pariah in American society, facing debts, legal challenges, and the constant whispers of treason. So he decides to leave the United States and head for Europe.
It was a self-imposed exile, a way to escape the judgment and scrutiny he faced at home.
Right.
You know, it's interesting to think about how this idea of exile has played out throughout history. We see it with figures like Napoleon, Edward Snowden, even royalty like the Romanovs. It's this concept of being forced to leave your homeland to become a wanderer in a foreign land.
And for Burr, exile was a time of both reflection and continued scheming. He traveled extensively, seeking support for various ventures, even trying to drum up interest in another expedition to Mexico.
So the ambition, the drive to leave his mark on the world, it never really went away.
It seems not, but his time in Europe was also marked by tragedy.
The loss of his daughter Theodosia at sea, it's a heart-wrenching story, a reminder of the fragility of life and the cruel hand that fate can sometimes deal.
It's a turning point in Burr's story. He's already lost his reputation, his political career, and now his beloved daughter. It's hard to imagine the depth of his despair.
After years of exile, Burr eventually returns to New York City, a shadow of his former self. He resumes his law practice, living a quieter, more secluded life.
It's a stark contrast to the man who once stood at the center of national attention.
But even though Burr faded from the spotlight, the impact of his alleged conspiracy continued to reverberate through American history.
His trial, and especially Chief Justice Marshall's rulings on the definition of treason, had a profound impact on American law and politics.
Marshall set a high bar for proving treason, emphasizing the need for concrete evidence of an overt act rather than just thoughts or intentions.
It was a landmark decision, one that safeguarded individual liberties and limited the government's ability to silence dissent.
And these protections are arguably even more important today in our era of social media and heightened political polarization.
Absolutely. We're constantly bombarded with information, with accusations of treason being thrown around quite liberally. Marshall's rulings remind us of the importance of due process of requiring evidence before making such serious allegations.
So in a way, even though Burr was acquitted, his trial helped solidify the principles of justice and fairness that are so crucial to our legal system.
It's a reminder that the past is never truly past. It continues to shape the present in ways we might not even realize.
And what about the political fallout from the Burr Conspiracy? It seems like it further divided an already fractured political landscape.
It certainly didn't help Federalists viewed the trial as an example of Jeffersonian overreach, an attempt to silence opposition.
And Jefferson in turn saw the Federalists as sympathetic to Burr, fueling his distrust of them.
It's a reminder of how fragile the young nation was, how easily political divisions could escalate.
So just as we wrap up our exploration of the Aaron Burr Conspiracy, what are some of the key takeaways that we should leave our listeners with?
Well, I think it's important to remember that history is rarely black and white. Burr was a complex figure driven by ambition, haunted by his past, and ultimately undone by his own actions.
His story is a cautionary tale about the allure of power, the dangers of unchecked ambition, and the importance of upholding the principles of justice and fairness, even in times of crisis.
And it's a reminder that the past is always with us, shaping our present and informing our future.
As always, I'm Dean.
And I'm Jess. Tune in next time for more Untold American.
This has been the Untold American podcast with Dean and Jess. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed exploring these untold stories with us. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share this episode with fellow history buffs and curious minds. Don't forget to leave a review. Your support helps us uncover even more fascinating stories. Until next time, stay curious and keep discovering America's untold tales.